Okay, Mayor, we are live on Facebook and you can go ahead.
Excellent. Hello, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being with us tonight. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 11, 2019. The notice was on that date posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader and the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Mrs. Rowley, may I have a roll call?
Tara's in.
Is she here?
No, I think Jim said she couldn't get in.
Jim, you're muted too.
Are we waiting for Tara?
Jim, you're muted.
You're muted, Jim.
Tara's on the list of attendees. I see her name there.
Looks like Jim's calling her.
Do we have enough ports? I know last meeting there wasn't enough ports for people to get in.
Yeah, we should. There's 38. I think it goes up to 100.
100 attendees. So you can have more panels.
Tara is going to try to re-enter. In the meantime, let me take the roll while we're waiting for her. And this is being recorded, so I think we can go ahead with that. So the roll, Mayor. So we have Mayor Brindle.
Here?
Council members Havegood,
Here.
Parmalee,
Here.
Logrippo,
Here.
Katz,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Contract,
Here.
Dardia,
Here.
Boys.
Here.
Okay, Mayor, and I just took care of some of Tara's light work.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, there she
Hey,
is.
Tara.
Hi, Tara.
Sorry about that.
Just in time for the salutes and the flag. So if you could all stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, and you can use the flag behind me if you want. I pledge of allegiance to the
Flag.
flag
United States of America,
States of America and to the republic
Republic for which it stands, one nation,
and
under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so Jim. we'll
Okay,
start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. A few updates tonight. Couple things that I just want to remind you, which not on the agenda. Of course, we welcome public comment. There's the HPC ordinance, which we've got a lot of feedback on. That's not an agenda item tonight. That is expected for the next meeting. Of course, if public comment comes up on that, we're more than happy to receive that. There's also some information we heard about people maybe expecting a presentation on Brightwood, which is also not on the agenda. But we'll take public comment if there is any on that as well. What else I have? Let's see. Oh, so ordinance number 2185 that's on the agenda. There's a slight revision to it. We had a directional issue in that, so we just changed the direction from, it was originally listed as north for restrictions on 4th Avenue. It's actually southwest. So we changed that. So it'll be introduced tonight in its proper form. And the block was supposed to be from Chestnut to Salter. So we've corrected that. So the introduction tonight is the same restriction, just from South Chestnut to Salter and on the southwesterly side. The resolution for the solar project that was on the agenda, that will be deferred tonight. We are still waiting for confirmation from Green Acres on some information we're waiting for them. And also the feasibility study by our consultant is not finalized yet. So we'll be revisiting that very shortly. So that'll be deferred tonight. So that's under your committee, Councilman Contract. We'll just skip that resolution tonight. Two other quick things on roads. North Chestnut road paving was awarded. Our town engineer has a pre-construction meeting this Thursday, and we expect work to start as early maybe as next week on North Chestnut paving. So more information will be sent out once we know for sure, but that's going to move along very quickly. And also Scotch Plains Avenue state contract road job. That is, we're waiting for state comments on the contract documents. We expect that to be out to bid hopefully in the next few weeks as well. So that'll be underway as soon as well. And lastly, we have as a panelist on the screen tonight, Lindsay Knight. I thought it'd be important to introduce Lindsay to not only the council, other staff members who already met her, but also the public. Lindsay is actually our new zoning officer. Kathleen Neville, who actually was with us since 1988, retired after 30 plus years working for the town. We went through an exhaustive interview process. We were lucky enough to find Lindsay. She comes from the New Jersey Sports Exposition Authority, working with multiple municipalities, doing a lot of zoning work. She also happens to be a certified planner in the state of New Jersey. So we get a lot of extra expertise coming our way. So I just want to introduce her. And Lindsay started yesterday and she's still with us today. So that's a good sign for us. So Lindsay, say hello and say a few words.
Oh, hello. I just want to thank you guys so much for everyone who I met through the interviewing process, and Jim, as well as Don, and everyone I've met at the office so far. It's been wonderful. The town of Westfield's been so welcoming, and I'm just really excited to be a part of all of the opportunities and projects that are happening in town.
Thank you, Lindsay. I was over there yesterday to say hello to Lindsay, and she's literally jumped into both feet, as you have no choice but to do. Applications are being reviewed by her already, phone calls taken, and also I can't not say a few words about Don and Kathy Nemeth, who are part of her team now, working together, the three of them, and Don and Kathy, just thanks for all the work, and Kathy Nemeth particularly doing the work of both Kathy and, of course, Kathleen Neville for this past month and a half. So thanks to Kathy Nemeth as well. So thank you, Lindsay. Welcome to the team. And you'll be seeing a lot more of Lindsay as we go forward.
Welcome, Lindsay.
Good luck, Lindsay.
Welcome.
Welcome.
All right, Lindsay, if you want to save yourself, you can leave now if you want.
Okay, I'll see you guys probably in the near future.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Jim, just a couple questions. You don't with your update.
Okay.
Just real quick, been getting a lot of emails about the bike paths along Boulevard, Summit, and Prospect. Any update on outreach to residents?
My understanding that's still under discussion. The demonstration projects are still being discussed, the details. So no, nothing's been done yet, and nothing's been decided yet, as far as I know.
Okay. And the other thing is the coffee kiosk. Did we get a final cost on the? I think we were up around 100,000 or so for the
Hey,
kiosk.
Actually, I did-
Councilman, I'm sorry. We're going to try and implement some new Robert's rules this evening and try to save all like comments that aren't directly related to what we're doing tonight to later on the agenda. So if you'll save those comments.
Well, for
later.
when, Mayor, this is, I'm talking to the town administrator, so he gave his update, so I'm just asking his questions, okay?
Well, we're just trying to create some efficiencies in the meeting because
Okay. Well, these are
Oh, wow.
questions that, I'd like to know the answers to.
Yeah, of course.
Councilman, this is Tom Jardine. The mayor is the presiding officer, so she'll recognize you if she wants to recognize you. That's her prerogative. I assume
Okay.
if you have any questions, you probably could ask Jim those questions at any other time other than this public meeting.
I
The mayor wants to
look at it
recognize
right now,
you.
thank you. Now, Jim, just real quick, do we have a final cost on that?
So let me circle back with you, Mark, on that.
Mayor, you're welcome to call him out of order if you want.
Yes, thanks. And council, we are trying to implement some new orders, especially in Zoom. I think it's been very hard. So we're going to be very adamant. I'm going to address that in my remarks as
Okay.
well.
Tom, just one last question for you. There's any update on the historic ordinance? There's rumors of pre-sales determination process in the ordinance. So just if you have an update, that'd be great.
So as I said, well, none of those items are on the agenda for this evening, so they can be discussed, at the appropriate time. So Jim, I'm sorry, were you?
Councilman, feel free to call me or email anytime you'd like
Okay, well,
to ask those questions.
Jim? So Jim,
Yes, that completes my report, Mayor. Thank you. And thanks
Great.
for welcoming Lindsay to the team.
Great,
Thanks,
thank
Jim.
you.
Yep.
So just in terms of our update tonight, again, thanks to everybody for joining us virtually. We are going to try to introduce some more Robert's rules, as we can see. I think with Zoom, we're trying to get used to, making sure our meetings are running efficiently and staying on point. So as usual, we only accept comments via Zoom, so no comments on Facebook are acknowledged here tonight. So please join us on Zoom if you have any specific questions. And this is also going to serve as my COVID update. I'm not going to read the entire update. All of that will be on my social media and the towns, and we'll email it as always, but I am going to give some highlights for this evening. So today there are 175,915 confirmed cases of COVID in New Jersey, with 634 still under investigation. The county has 16,537 cases, and Westfield reported no new cases yesterday, but they did report 12 new cases today, bring our total to 325 for my update on Sunday. I know the recent upward trend over the last 2 weeks is not news to most of you, and I will address it in more detail shortly. But I also am very saddened to report that we have reports of an additional fatality, an 82-year-old male associated with a long-term care facility. It is a death that occurred back in May, but it was only now reported to us due to an error in the lab's reporting system. So regardless of the timing, we just want to remember and acknowledge that there is another life that's tragically lost. I think that brings us up to 43, and we keep this resident and his family in our thoughts. There's some updates, in terms of this. Governor Murphy announced additional 14-day quarantine periods for additional states, bringing a total up to now 22. The good news is New Jersey is one of only 12 that's meeting its current testing targets, and hopefully that will continue. And anybody that's starting to get back into commuting mode, the governor signed an executive order yesterday lifting the 50% capacity limits enforced on New Jersey Transit. Face coverings are always required. And very importantly, and hopefully we've let all of our businesses know, that Union County has launched a COVID-19 relief grant program. It's for small businesses. It's that have been impacted by the health emergency, up to $2 million in CARES Act relief funds. And so grants up to $20,000 for small businesses of 25 or less employees. So there's information available on our website for how you can apply. Very importantly, yesterday I participated in a Zoom call with New Jersey Transit, along with other members of the RVL Mayor's Alliance and the Raritan Valley Rail Coalition. And they presented the results of the RVL one-seat ride feasibility study that was approved by the legislature back in December. So I have to say, we were pretty disappointed with their findings, not completely surprised by it. And we found their findings were limited in both the options they presented and the ridership data that they had considered. So it concluded that there is additional capacity to add trains during the off-peak shoulder period, but it would take a long time and a lot of money to do so, which didn't feel credible to most of us that were listening. So as disappointed as we were, it is just the beginning of a political and legislative process, and it's going to evolve as the transit situation becomes more certain post-COVID. I spoke to Congressman Tom Malinowski yesterday, who's also advocating with the governor's office, and even New Jersey Transit acknowledged this is just the beginning of the conversation, by no means the end of the conversation. And so stay tuned for updates, and just know that the RVL mayors certainly are not going to give up our fight for equitable service. I want to let you know too, the Westfield Memorial Library has postponed its limited reopening that had been scheduled for yesterday, just in light of the recent uptick in COVID numbers, just out of abundance of caution. So they will continue to provide curbside service for now with their expanded hours. So details to come as things move forward. Tonight, we're doing something very exciting on the agenda. We are taking our first step in the implementation of the Strategic Parks Plan. And the council is voting on a resolution to award a contract for planning and design services for the development of a master recreation plan on the Edison School property, which includes 2 turf fields. So the plan is to ultimately determine what is the best ultimate use of the property. They're going to be talking to all the stakeholders, not only the sports leagues, but also the school administrators and sports folks, and ultimately come up with a real plan with what it could be and what the actual cost would be. So we're very excited about moving that step forward. There's also another thing tonight that we have on ordinance on first reading out of the Code Review and Town Property Committee. And we'll be amending a certain section of our land use ordinance relating to the definitions of pet care facilities, so we can expand the permitted uses in certain zone districts, particularly our downtown. So we're always trying to make sure that our land use allowances and zoning allowances evolve with, I think, current trends. And certainly I think pet care and so forth seems to be a very big emerging trend. I want to we have joining with us tonight is our Regional Health Director, Megan Avalone. And before I talk and address the recent COVID trend, I want to hand it off to Megan and hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will, about what's going on, what we're seeing, and in any other context that she can provide. So with that, I'll hand it off to you, Megan.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you all know, we are certainly seeing an uptick in Westfield and the surrounding areas in young adults. Ages 17 to 23, we're seeing numbers test positive, the most that we've seen since we started in March, which is obviously really concerning to us. Just as a recap, what we do when we get positive results is we reach out to every individual and we do contact tracing that you hear so much about. The health department team, we work 7 days a week. And what we do is we ask people where they've been, who they've been in contact with, where they think they were exposed, why they decided to get tested, all with the hopes of spreading outbreaks before they start. I can tell you with the recent activity that we're seeing in Westfield, they're directly related to parties, celebrations that mostly have been outside. So just as a reminder to residents, I know summer is so much fun and we all, really want to be with the ones we love and our friends, but no activity goes without any risk. So just a reminder that even when you're outdoors, it's really important to keep, a distance as much as possible. The other thing that we're getting lots of questions about is about if you know that you were in contact with somebody who tests positive, should you run out and get a test immediately, right? There seems to be a lot of questions about when to test if you think you've been exposed, and certainly the health department encourages testing for residents who think they've been exposed, but that does not take the place of the quarantine period. So we know that especially with COVID-19, you can incubate the virus for up to 14 days. So even if you've been exposed and you get a test on day 9 and test negative, it's still possible that on day 13, day 14, that test, if you were to get retested, would turn positive. And we know that you can spread the virus up to 2 days before you become symptomatic or before you test positive. So just a reminder to all residents that certainly we encourage testing, but if you've been exposed, that 14-day quarantine period really should be adhered to stop the spread in our community. The same holds true with return from those 22 states. So there is a voluntary quarantine in place if you're vacationing, primarily South states, Southern states, and Southwestern states. But again, you can get tested. We do encourage testing, but that does not take the place of the 14-day quarantine period after you return home. As I said, my staff, myself, we've been working really hard. If we call you, we're calling because we're really trying to stop the spread of disease. So please cooperate with us. It's really important that we try to get an understanding of where people are going, and really important that we try to make contact with individuals who may have been exposed so that, number one, they know they're exposed and they can get the real quarantine information so they know exactly what they should be doing so they're not spreading unknowingly the virus.
And Megan, can you talk about what are they saying? I know there's some anecdotal or quantitative stuff from the testing center. We're definitely seeing the community is hopefully got the message and they're getting tested and taking proactive measures. That's what the data shows, right?
Yes. So we're definitely seeing more tests come in, which is wonderful. And we're definitely seeing reports of more testing at the testing site, which is great. It means that the messages, residents are listening to our messages. So thank you. But just as a reminder that with the testing, if you've been exposed, we definitely need the quarantine to go along with that. Also, the health department is here as a resource, and I know the information is confusing and there's lots of it. So if any resident has any questions at all, please don't hesitate to give us a call or an email, and we can certainly talk you through the best guidance for your particular situation.
And Megan, I also got a question from a resident who had a sibling tested positive. So what does that mean for the whole family if there's a family member that's tested positive? What protocol should they follow?
Yeah, so if someone in your household tests positive, everyone in the household should be quarantined. But the amount, the days of quarantine when that clock starts really depends on each household situation, which is why it's really important for us to do the outreach to people who test positive. So for example, if your household contact tests positive, let's say day one, and the house is big enough where they're able to, let's say, live in the basement after they know they're positive and there's really no exposure to other household members, then that clock for the household members, their quarantine period can start right then. But if the house is small, if they can't separate themselves efficiently, if they're a young child and they need their parents' care, then obviously we're looking at a longer quarantine period because that amount of time that you're spending with that household contact has been extended.
So at a minimum, it's 14 days for everybody in the household.
At a minimum, it's 14 days from the date of last contact.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Megan. And I know how hard you and your staff are working. It's not an easy time to be a public health official. So very grateful for your service and commitment on you and your entire staff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mayor, can I ask Megan a quick question?
You know what, David, let me get through the rest of this and we'll address it later. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, so
Hey, Mayor,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to say just a thank you to Megan, but not only she's doing a great job in Westfield, but this is a regional department and we're getting accolades from all over our region that she serves and her staff serves, as well as towns that are not in our region, based upon our performance and of course the staff's performance. So I just want to say thank you again to Megan and the staff. It's the hidden department on the second floor of the building that's doing a lot of work, but they're doing a great job. So thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor, for supporting them and the town council as well.
Absolutely. So, and just a few other things about, in addition to what Megan said, just a reminder about the outdoor and indoor maximum gathering numbers permitted by the governor, because some people are confused by it. Indoor gatherings must be limited to 100 people or 25% of a room's capacity. So I've gotten, people ask me all the time what they should and should be doing. I'm not one to advise them, but I think, I don't know, you might not know what the capacity of someone's home you may have been invited to, but ideally it should be 25% is what's being recommended of a room's capacity, and everybody should be wearing face coverings. Outdoor gatherings, as we know, limited to 500 people, social distancing and face coverings at all times. And so we're really trying to stop community spread. And I know it's hard, especially with this younger demographic who aren't exhibiting symptoms. But as we all know, it could be easily transmitted. So hopefully we'll get through this wave. I'm sure we will, and then get back to kind of enjoy the very low numbers that we had been experiencing for so long. So thanks again to Megan. And just as a reminder, contact tracing, it's all HIPAA protected. So I don't know if people have concerns about that. And Megan, I don't know if you want to comment on that at all. If people's objections to contact tracing, are there privacy concerns?
Most times, my team is all nurses and physician assistant. So we have licenses to protect, right? And certainly we understand and we really take seriously the patient confidentiality. Plus there's HIPAA laws on top of that. So we don't share information with anybody. We don't share information with employers. We don't share information with schools. Sometimes I get a lot of questions. Will this information be shared with the mayor, right? We don't share specific information with the mayor or with the governing body either. So absolutely, everything is kept completely confidential.
Yes, and people ask me, I have no idea who any of our confirmed positives are. So, and nor should I. So, but thank you very much. And just on the final note, to just reiterate what I said, I just want to, in light of Zoom, and I think in several of our meetings that it's very easy to say interrupt ourselves. And I do think that our meetings can get very long as a result and be inefficient. So I am going to insist that any comments that aren't relevant to the particular business at hand, meaning the resolution or ordinance we are discussing or is on the agenda, be deferred to after council committee reports and not in this meeting. I am the presiding officer. I have an obligation to manage the council meetings and make sure we stay on agenda so we don't finish up our meetings like the last one on the next day. So I'm gonna be pretty insistent on that, and hopefully we can all cooperate on that. So with that, I think we can move on to the business at hand. And that first order of business is appointing, we had some resignations from the Public Arts Commission for some personal reasons. So we are going to appoint their replacements tonight. So I would like to name the council appointments to the Public Arts Commission. Gwen Fisher, Class 2, she's my designee, and it's through the end of this year to fill an unexpired term. And Eric Hara, Class 3, he's the town historian designee, and he also is through the end of this year filling out an unexpired term. So may I have a motion to accept those appointments?
So moved.
So moved. I think that was Councilman LaGrippo. Second?
Second, Dardia.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. And then I think we have a special presentation tonight, right? Jim, I just
Yes.
want to introduce this.
Yeah, just before we do that, we want to let Megan go. Is that okay?
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, Megan. Unless you put in enough hours. You don't need to stay any longer.
Thank you again, Megan.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Megan.
Good night, Megan.
Take care.
Yes, thanks, Megan. So we have a presentation by Dylan Patel. Let me find him on here and we will activate his, where are you, Dylan? Here you are. Okay. All right, Dylan, hello, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you? Good. So Dylan is here to make a quick presentation about his project in Tamaqua Park, which he previously presented at the Recreation Commission and got approved. So I'll turn it over to you, Dylan.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dylan Patel, and tonight I'll be presenting my Eagle Scout project proposal. I'm currently a rising junior at Westfield High School, and I'm currently working on my Eagle Scout project to obtain the highest Scout rank of Eagle. To ensure my Eagle Scout project had the biggest public impact, I released a survey to the public. In this survey, I asked residents if they were currently satisfied with our wooded trails, how often they use the trails, what improvements they would like to see happen, and what improvements they would like to see happen in their local park. When asked what improvements they would like to be made, I overwhelmingly received the suggestion of the installation of stepping stones in muddy areas to prevent trail erosion. Based on the survey, I came up with 5 improvements for my Eagle Scout project. The first improvement is the current trail map at the entrance of the wooded paths has a large hole and the glass protector is broken. The current frame is rotted out. To fix the map, I would get a new map printed that is higher quality and longer lasting. Secondly, the current trail markers are faded and hard to read. The trails are also not properly marked in regard to the International Code for Trailblazers. To improve the trails, I would install longer lasting reflective trail markers. The new markers would be made out of 1/16 inch steel metal and will be secured by a single bolt. Third, there are many hazardous routes exposed throughout the trails. In my public survey, I received many complaints of people falling and even a few complaints of broken bones. To improve the trails, I would paint the exposed routes to provide a warning to pedestrians and bikers. Fourth, to fix the puddling on the trails, one of the largest complaints I received was the collection of water puddling on the trails. This prohibits and hinders many residents from using the trails. As seen, the trails are unusable when wet. To fix the puddling on the trails, I would place wooden rounds about 24 inches in diameter on the trails to provide areas to walk in the southeast portion of the trails. Lastly, to provide public education, I would identify and label some trees throughout the trails. This would educate the public as well as attract children. I'm seeking your approval to proceed with the project. Thank you. Any questions?
So unfortunately, this is the Zoom setup. I have seen Dylan's proposal on paper as the Recreation Commission, I believe, did, and very well done. Particularly the taking rounds of the trees as a sustainable element and putting in the pathways to create safe passage. So if nobody has any questions or has any comments, normally what happens, Dylan, the council would approve this, and then I'd be authorized to write you a letter for approval. And then as the date gets closer for installation, you can contact myself or Mr. O'Neill, our Public Works Director, for any assistance you may need.
Dylan, this is Councilman Contract. First of all, congratulations on your Eagle Scout or going after it. And I think your project is worthy and needed. And I think it's great. What's your timing? And are you going to be enlisting the help of others, or are you doing this all by yourself?
My timing is later this year, presumably in September, if it gets passed by the Eagle Scout Commission that is part of the National Boy Scouts of America. And I will be recruiting friends as well as other scouts to help me with my project.
Great. Well, good luck. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan. Very nice job.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan. Great job.
Great.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan. So you have approval, and I'll get you a letter out. And then, like I said, as the date draws near, let us know what you need. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, so moving on, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Council regular meeting of June 30th, 2020?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Mackey, second.
Second.
Second by Habgood.
Second by Councilman Hapgood. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Mrs. Rowley, do we have any petitions or communications?
No, Mayor, we don't.
Okay, great. So now it's time for open discussion by citizens. You can virtually raise your hand to make your comment on any subject on which we have jurisdiction, and be sure to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Mary, we have one person raising their hand, Frank Arena. Frank, are you there? Still on mute, Frank. Frank?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we got you now.
Hey, hello, everybody. It's me again, Frank Arena, 701 Coleman Place, Westfield, New Jersey. First, Megan Avalone jumped off, but kudos to her and the staff for their tireless work over these past several months. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I floated the idea of painting a blue line in town, and it doesn't sound like we got support for that. And I'm back to you about that. Unfortunately, it appears that we're not going to get support for painting the blue line. Also, unfortunately, and I have some notes here, there's several more police officers have died in the line of duty, and others have been attacked. Just a few days ago in New York City, a police officer, some of you may have seen the video, was attacked by a criminal put in a headlock. Interesting how the media reports when a police officer puts someone in a headlock, it's a chokehold, and not the other way around. Anyway, last week there was a demonstrations in Detroit as people they were claiming that Detroit police unjustly shot and killed an innocent man who sat unarmed on his porch. Much like the hands up, don't shoot issue was a fallacy, so are the claims of these people in Detroit, as a video released by Detroit Police James Craig clearly depicted. And in Texas 3 days ago, 2 officers were killed in an ambush on a routine call. If any police calls these days can be called routine. And yesterday in Buffalo, Washington, not unlike Westfield, it's a suburb, a small suburb of a major city like Westfield, an officer was killed. Interesting was the police chief said that in all his 25 years, he's never seen anything like that. So I'm back to you today about trying to show some support for the police. I have another idea. In lieu of painting a blue line, what about this as an idea? And Mayor and Council, I'd love to have your backing on this. What about we, at Town Hall on the flagpole, raise a Westfield Police Department flag in support of our police department, also other first responders. Might that work, Mayor? Is that a good idea as a way to support the fine work that our police officers continue to do and support us?
I'll just reiterate what I said last time is that I think at the appropriate time post-COVID, that we want to do a public acknowledgement for all of our first responders as well as our health officers. And right now, clearly, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And I think when we feel like we're on the other side of it, I'll work with the chief and with Jim and the council members to determine what is the most appropriate way to acknowledge that.
Mayor, you've taken other actions in other areas while COVID's going on, and some not related at all to some of the heroic things that our first responders are doing. So if you're able to do some of those things, I think you should be able to at least do something for our police department. And I'm talking about raising the flag. And maybe we don't have a Westfield Police Department flag, I don't know, but I know I could get funding to have one made. So I ask you to consider that. I think it would be an easy thing to do. It'd probably take less time than some of the other things that you've put in place in town these past several months. And I'd love to be able to do that. Don't want to take any more of your time, but just in closing, Mayor, around the country, many politicians and spokespeople are calling for the funding of their police department. Do you support the funding of the Westfield Police Department?
Councilman, this is a conversation that I have with Chief Badalora and with Jim Gilday, and I feel that we absolutely support them as needed, and I think that most of them would agree with that. So, Councilman, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, thank you very much.
That's music to our ears that you are not supporting, like many politicians, to defund the Westfield Police Department. I think that's huge. In fact, I think Westfield 300, right? You're chairing that committee. The people in Westfield have never been more imperiled. So if anything, I think the police department should receive additional funding. But crazy, Mayor de Blasio in New York City, reducing his budget by $1 billion. So I think that's great news to hear that you are not in support of the funding the Westfield Police Department. But I get back to you, I think it'd be a very easy thing to do for our fine officers. And since in 2 weeks, how many police officers have died? And some of them in towns analogous to Westfield, to just raise a flag in support of them. Again, you've done other things in other areas, not as critical in terms of safety to people of Westfield, and you easily had that done. I don't see why you can't do this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have is Michael Blancato. Mr. Blancato, are you there? Still muted? Yes.
Can
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm calling about the Historic Preservation District.
Can you give your name and address? Having trouble hearing you.
Jersey. A couple. Hold on one second.
Sure.
Okay, you should be able to hear me better now.
Yes, if you give your address again, that'd be great.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Are you guys able to hear me, or am I not able to be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
If you can't hear me,
Michael, you're
Okay.
fine.
You're
go to
fine.
the next person.
Yeah, we hear you, Michael.
We hear you.
We hear you.
I tried.
Michael, you're fine.
We hear you.
We can hear you,
Be
Michael.
able to hear us.
The problem is we can't have two computers.
I can hear you.
Okay, let's go to next person. Next person we have is Andrew Stillofson. Andrew, are you there? Name and address, Andrew? Andrew? Andrew, are you still there? You're ready to go. Okay, Andrew, we're gonna go to the next person. Next person we have is Don Villani. Don, are you there?
Yeah, this is Don Villani. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and give your address.
633 Cumberland Street, Westfield.
Great.
Okay, I'm just a couple concerns regarding the historic preservation ordinance that they're talking about bringing in. Honestly, I feel that this has got a very good chance of putting owners' nest eggs in jeopardy. To change the rules, when somebody's been in a home, I know some people that I'm talking to that have been in their homes for 50, 60 years or longer, and they're ready to pull the funds to sustain themselves. The children want to pull whatever funds they can for the parents to go into assisted living or hospice or whatever the situation is. To have an ordinance that's going to either slow the process for whatever it is that builders or other people want to do with the property, it definitely puts their property in jeopardy of value, in my opinion. I understand what you're trying to do, and I do recommend that that it should be looked at a little closer, especially in regards to the process that how you're doing it. My understanding, and if I'm wrong, I hope I am, but my understanding is that you have to get the house ready for demolition, which is going to take you a good 6 months. You're going to disconnect all utilities and make that house uninhabitable. So that right there pulls the value down just in waiting for the council or whoever, the commission, for them to make that determination if the house cannot be modified as the new owner is going to want to do. I think what would be a good process is if you could take a look at the idea of if an owner wants to do something with their home, as far as whether they're going to sell or whatever, to have that process looked at ahead of time to give the owner the wherewithal to know if it's going to be deemed historic. If it's not, and there's going to be no restrictions, that's great, that they could do what they want from there. Also, as a realtor, I think it would then be my obligation for anybody who's buying a home that's older than or that was built prior to 1930, that it would be my responsibility to let them know that there could be possible restrictions on their home if they wanted to do a remodel or any kind of reconstruction. So I think the process needs to be looked at a little closer to be able to give the people the understanding that they know what they're buying, they're knowing what they can or cannot do. And I just really ask that you look at those situations a little closer.
And thank you, Don. And actually, we are looking at exactly that scenario and trying to understand what we're able to do. But to give some people some comfort, because certainly the intent is not to, nobody should be feeling that their nest egg is in jeopardy because of the intent of this ordinance. That's certainly not what it's meant to do. So we are in the process of looking at options now.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Don, this is Councilman LaGripa. I did vote no on it, and just for the reasons you disclosed. But thank you for speaking this evening.
Okay, next person we have again is Andrew Stillison. Andrew again. Andrew, you're there. Name and address. Andrew?
He's muted.
You're muted, Andrew.
Andrew, you're there? Good, Andrew. Andrew? All right, one more time. Let's go. We'll go to next person we have. Again, we'll try Michael Blancato again, who's raised his hand again. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hopefully this time you can all hear me. Can somebody just acknowledge that you can? Great.
Yes.
So this is Michael Blancato. First of all, I want to thank Megan. She is doing a wonderful job. I also want to thank some of the council people who've called me back concerning the historical district. I do believe, Mayor Brindle, that this is going to impact the real estate values for the houses that are designated. And a couple of things. One, the way the ordinance is written right now, you can say that the intent isn't there, but the way the ordinance is currently written is there. One of the comments I want to make, it only takes 50% for you to designate historical residence. But if you look at section 6-7, because the page numbers are all say page 2, so I can't even go by page number, it takes 2/3 of the council to designate it as non-historic. So if somebody wanted to take a house, it could be deemed historic with a 50% vote. but it takes a 2/3 vote to get it deemed non-historic. I think right there that should be changed. Secondly, there's a lot of issues going on now with Zoom. There's a lot with COVID. And you just a couple of minutes ago said you wanted to wait till things, and your exact words were at the appropriate time post-COVID that you want to do this. This is a major ordinance for the town. I would seriously think that you should wait for a vote till after COVID. The third point I want to make is I'm very technically savvy. And as you could tell, I was trying to have my father on a different computer and I had some feedback, which is why the Zoom call didn't work. Over the last couple of weeks, since the last meeting, I've had a lot of people call me that aren't technically savvy and aren't able to get on Zoom calls. This goes across generations, but more than most was the senior citizens of the town. And those to me are the ones that are going to be most impacted. I do want to thank you all for the time and consideration, but I really hope that you consider this vote be delayed until after. One last point I want to make is one of the council people told somebody that look at the Fanwood Historic District. The Fanwood Historic District has a way to pledge in. And what I'm saying is, if you want to do the same thing here, allow residents to pledge in. And I'd even before those residents getting a real estate tax deduction. So change the way this ordinance written and have residents pledge in and say, my house is historic. I don't ever want it to be knocked down. And therefore for that, I get a 10% real estate tax deduction. Then if it falls in disrepair, do something similar to Green Acres and make the person pay back all those back real estate taxes that they might have saved over the years. But the way this ordinance is written now, holistically across the town for any area that could be designated by simple historic one house or a marking or something like that, can have a detrimental impact to the town. Thank you for your time.
Michael, I wasn't sure. Did we capture his address?
It was 18 Carroll Road, Westfield, New Jersey.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. I'm confident this ordinance will be reintroduced.
Okay, next person we have is Andrew Stillson again. We'll try you again, Andrew. Andrew? You're still on, Andrew? Andrew? You should be able to speak. Andrew? Okay, we'll come back to you again. Next person we have is Robin. Robin, are you there? You provide your address?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, if you provide your address?
Robin Ratkowski, 107 Hazel Avenue.
Great.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so in regard to the historic preservation ordinance, and actually I just want to mention that I 100% agree with what the comments Don Belani just made. So that's really where my concerns lie, is in this individuals like myself who are going to be affected by this directly, right? Who haven't a home, you know, older than 1930, but are very likely would not be considered historic, right? With no way to be able to determine that other than through a demolition permit or actually applying. So this to me is kind of, number one, it's singling out those of us in a group by kind of choosing this 1930 date. And I know I've attended a lot of these meetings, so I understand. And I know, Mayor, you're going to say it's not a big deal, but to those of us who it does affect, it feels like, you know, rather than maybe make it, you know, pre and post World War II or something more, not so, I don't know, confining and directing to a certain group of people, right? So now we're kind of, it's not going to affect everybody else in Westfield except those of us in this group now. So what about somebody who lives next door to me with a house that's built in 1931? Maybe it is probably historic, but this isn't affecting them. So I'm having kind of just issues around this. And then really kind of the comments that I've heard saying that, well, most of the houses that fall underneath this are so most likely not going to be considered historic. Then I don't get how we're saving many historic homes. That's supposed to be the intended purpose, but what percent of these individual homes I'm talking about, and are we really going to be saving? So I'm having problem with the intended purpose and the way this is written, right? And that really, to me, the way it is right now, seems that what you're going to be preventing is demolition permits from being submitted and not actually saving historic homes, right? Because then you're going to not even get to the point where you're going to submit a permit to find out or not, right? So my concern is, even at some point, no time soon, but when I get the opportunity that I'm, to be able to put my house on the market, I don't want to have to be running into this, and I don't want to have to be worrying about this. I could be here for 20 more years. My other point being is I have an old house that's 99.9% likely not going to be designated historic, right? I don't want to be hung up on this. And I also have a very large corner lot. Okay. I don't want to miss out on potential opportunities for the best possible offer that I could get by this scaring potential buyers away. So that directly relates to what Don Villani was speaking to. I'm glad that you did mention that you are considering something. I haven't seen FAQs updated yet. So I would be very interested to learn what you're considering on this. And if you are considering putting something in before August 11th, that would be great. But I believe really it would be fair to those of us in my situation, instead of telling me, oh, well, you're just likely not going to be designated historic. That's great. I can't tell a potential buyer that. Okay, well, the mayor said, don't worry, Robin, that's not going to fly. And I have a big, concern about that. And I believe there should be a remedy somehow put in there for those of us in this situation, and to actually be able to have a provision and some kind of other application in there saying Robin's house built in 1920. She wants to have the HCP come over and do a survey and give her an opportunity to find out. And so I feel very strongly about, so I'm glad that you are considering it. And I look forward to hearing what possibilities. I think that would alleviate a lot of
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, and I agree. And just so you know, when you say you're in this situation, I think maybe all of us on the council, if not most of us, live in pre-1930 homes. So when you say we're all in the same situation. And so, but I do understand and appreciate those that are worried about the uncertainty of knowing, it's probably unlikely, but it would certainly be nice if you had some confirmation of that. So we're just looking at some of the legalities and how we would word and frame something like that to incorporate in. So it's not in the FAQs yet because we don't have an answer yet, but we are looking at it, and we are looking at potential some type of tax abatement for those that designate their homes as well. So
yeah, those are both great. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're very motivated to resolve both of those, and yes, and we would absolutely have definitive information on that prior to any vote on this ordinance by the council on the 11th.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. I'll be here.
Hey, just a quick question. Several real estate personnel reached out to me. Do they have to disclose this on transition on new sales? There's a little confusion on that. Does anyone know the answer to that?
Disclose what, Mark?
Sorry, disclose the transition as far as the year the house was built with the pending ordinance, as far as if 1930 has to be disclosed in the sale of the house.
I'm a little confused by the question, because isn't the sale, the year of the house is something that's automatically disclosed?
No, well, the real estate agents are a little confused. Like, some are disclosing that to their potential buyer that the home could be impacted because it was built prior to 1930. And, with full transparency, a couple of real estate agents have reached out to me saying they've lost potential buyers because of this pending ordinance.
And so really just so I'm clear, their concern is really only if there's plans to demolish the house, right? If it's a house that's not going to be demolished, it's irrelevant. It's only just so I'm just trying to reframe the question. So it's really only a concern for realtors who want to demolish homes prior to 1930, because if there's no plans for that, it's not impacted. So is that the question?
Well, yeah, but even if the house is in great shape, if it was built 1929, pristine condition, some of the potential buyers are a little nervous of the ordinance because they don't want to buy a house built prior to 1930, then they're going to be, some feel saddled with the historic designation.
Well, just to be clear, the only reason it would impact anybody is if they want to demolish the house. So if someone is buying a house without any intention to demolish it, it wouldn't be material to them. So, I guess we can talk offline because I maybe Tom can answer that. I'm not really clear on the concern.
Okay, Mr. Sillison, we're going to try you again. You're very diligently raising the hand. You're there, Mr. Sillison?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Finally,
they're trying to charm.
I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for trying me.
It's okay.
So
Yeah,
Andrew Stillison, 667 4th Avenue.
Right.
I would like to speak about the revised historic preservation ordinance. One goal of the ordinance revision is to preserve more homes and encourage homeowners to designate. But in order to do this, I think that the Historic Preservation Commission itself must be reformed. By their own admission, the Historic Preservation Commission has a poor reputation with many Westfield homeowners. So I think reform of this body is more attuned to Westfield homeowners' needs and encourage cooperation rather than an adversarial relationship. It's really critical. So just a couple suggestions on how it can be reformed. First of all, the way that the revision was handled with current homeowners, to me, really demonstrates the need for a change to the ordinance to require notice and opportunity to comment for homeowners, designated homeowners, for any material change to the ordinance. This way, the homeowners are ensured getting a voice in any change to the ordinance. Secondly, there's a critical need for a homeowner's voice on the Historic Preservation Commission. I've been to over 10 meetings in the last 3 years, and not once to my recollection have I heard any member ever bring up how they can make the process better for homeowners. I think there's a really critical need for homeowner voice. Therefore, I think the ordinance should be revised to make sure that one of the voting members is the owner of a designated home. That'll make sure that the homeowner voice is always heard. Third, I think this is the most important change that should be implemented, that the standard of review should be changed from an objective floor rather than the current ceiling. That homeowner knows what is needed for approval for a certificate of appropriateness before applying. Right now, it's my experience that an applicant must satisfy 9 subjective opinions of the members to be approved. My experience, these opinions are likely to change or be contradictory or result in perhaps a death by 1,000 cuts that an applicant no longer recognizes the design, but end of the process. So I think if you change the standard of review to a knowable objective standard that minimizes the burden on the homeowners, I think that would be a really important change. So that's it. I just wanted to make those 3 suggestions to the Historic Preservation Ordinance. I think it should be, the commission itself should be much more aligned and attuned to the needs of homeowners. And I think if you do that, you will definitely encourage and attract more people to designate their homes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think, so if, I don't know, no, nobody comes back a second time. So we're only gonna allow those that are back for, haven't spoken before. So, Jim, you have are there a new speaker?
Yes, we have one new speaker here, Mrs. Hines. Are you there, Mrs. Hines?
Maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Get
Okay.
Address?
Yes, Sherry Hines, 28 Stoneleigh Park. I wanted to comment on just 2 things that were mentioned tonight. One by the mayor, when you say that it's only really affecting people that have homes that are earlier than 1930, that this ordinance only affects people with a tear down prior to 1930. But that's not totally true, because the historic home ordinance can affect anybody. It doesn't have to do with just a tear down, because my home could be designated as historic without me wanting it to be. by a vote by the town council and a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Committee, which when something like that happens to a home, it costs more to do all of the things that a Historic Preservation Committee is going to require if you want to have an addition or you want to have something done different to your house. It costs the homeowner more. And then when you go to sell your home and you tell the people that are buying it, oh, and by the way, if you want to do anything in the future, you're going to have to get approval. You're going to have to go through a process. It does reduce the number of people that are interested in buying your home. Secondly, I do think that given the COVID situation and the amount of people who are not technically savvy, who can't use Facebook and don't know how to use Zoom and mute and unmute, that there are a lot of people who are being left out of this public discussion that makes it very unfair to them. So you really don't hear the complete population. The public doesn't get the opportunity to speak as you would in a public forum as we used to prior to COVID. So it would be in the best interest of the town to allow us to wait on an ordinance of this significance until more of the public can come publicly and speak and be heard. That would be my comment for this evening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mhm.
My only comment on post-COVID and Zoom, I mean, we don't know obviously how long we're going to be in this, but if our last council meeting was any indication, when we had 130 attendees and over 30 commenters, I think as long as I've been, the 2.5 years as mayor, I think that would have been considered one of the top council meetings of any participation by the public. So I understand the point about being technical savvy, but I also think based upon the feedback that certainly I think many of us have gotten in emails and letters and to the editor and that there's been a significant amount of engagement on this. So, anyway, is that it, Jim? Are there more?
Let's see it. Looks like don't see anybody else. That's one more. Hold on. We have Mr. Jeff Pate. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, Jim, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. You give your address?
I'm at 624 Salter Place here in Westfield.
Go ahead.
A couple of comments. First of all, I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I know it's a tough thing to do with this restriction of the computer Zoom. Perfect example of that is Mr. Sillison was hard to hear. You couldn't hear him a couple of times. Mike Blancato had a problem and so forth. And some people might have been dismayed and just don't even bother to try anymore. I almost got to that point, but I'm glad I stayed on. I agree that important decisions may not be 100% represented, but Mary made a good point. A lot of people were here 2 weeks ago. Maybe they got on, maybe they didn't, but it is what it is with COVID. My question to, I guess maybe Jim or Mike, you made reference to the parking on 4th Avenue. I'm curious, I know you haven't read it yet, but once you read it, I can't comment or ask questions. So my question is, you mentioned the northwesterly side. Can you kind of preview that for me, or is that not allowed at this point?
I can answer the question. So as was, I guess, Councilman Doherty discussed with you, and I believe your neighbor, southwesterly side, which is your side of the street that you and your neighbor live on, that one block between South Chestnut and Salter is going to be restricted for parking as was discussed. And then you and your neighbor will have the opportunity to receive, there's no cost, but residential permits as necessary.
Okay, I guess what threw me, it seems like I would be the northwesterly side. I was just questioning, I think the southwesterly side is the park side.
Yeah, I think he's right.
I just want to be clear on what we're voting on here tonight.
Well, yeah, Tom.
I was going to say, I think the town engineer could address it, but true north in this instance, that would be the southwesterly side.
So you'll be voting on restricting parking on my side of the street and leaving it on the park side open.
Correct.
Okay. And I got to say, over the years, we've really had a problem with the parking when the park is fully used. This is a long time coming, and I think it's a good idea. And I want to thank you for at least asking our input on it, and I hope it goes as planned, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jeff.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else want to speak? There's nobody else right now raising their hand. Hold on, we have another person. Name that appears as Vallis. Hello, name and address?
It's Tony Vallis, 532 Carlton Road.
Okay.
I wanted to comment on the historical preservation ordinance as well.
Sure.
As the owner of a home that's built prior to 1930, I'm concerned that it's going to, as others have said, negatively impact me and others. I think it could eventually cost me more money, whether I choose to do repairs or improvements, or if down the road I look to sell the house. I think it'll bring the value down, because I think it'll create restrictions on having to sell it. So I just hope that you guys look at this closer and get some more public input before we go further. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Jim Robinson. Mr. Robinson, are you there? Have you brought your name and address?
Yeah, I'm here. Jim Robinson, 624 East Broad Street. Hi, good
Yeah.
evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Jim.
Okay, hi. Hi, Shelley. How are you?
Good.
I want to reiterate, I think you guys are doing a great job with everything going on and doing this, remotely through COVID. I think I just want to reiterate the comments that were just made. Concern, our house is also pre-1930, and we're concerned on, what would this mean for us in terms of selling and the value of it. So I think, I'm not going to repeat everything that was just said, but I think I have the same sentiments. And I hope there's more study into this before a decision's made.
Great.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. Okay. Anyone else? Arlene. We have Arlene Gardner. Arlene, are you there? Still on mute, Arlene. There you go. Arlene? Are you there? Want to give your name and address?
Okay, I'm at 634 Carlton Road. I really wasn't planning on making comments. I've sent some to my council member, and I'm still thinking about this. We have had a lot of tear downs in our neighborhood, which does concern me. We do live in a house that was built long before 1930. I have to agree with one thing that everyone else is saying. Although I think the goal of this is a good idea, I think we really have to think it through and do it right. And I think the public is looking for a little more detail on how this is going to work. I mean, if the town is going to survey all the houses before 1930 and tell us in advance which ones have historic, cultural, or other significance, I think that would be useful. If everybody is left up in the air until they want to sell their house, I have to agree that that does make a problem. So, this just needs a little more thinking through. It's a little more complicated than I think anyone appreciated initially. So, it sounds like from what Mayor Brindle said that you are going to spend a little more time looking at this more seriously, and that'll be a good thing. And I think in the long run, this could actually enhance the value of the houses, enhance the value of the town. I mean, when you go and visit these historic towns, it's because they have kept their history, and I don't think we want to lose that. On the other hand, we don't want to make it impossible for people to sell their houses also. So thank you for—
Thank you. Thank you, Arlene. And Arlene, just to the point, this ordinance has been worked on for over a year in committee. So I don't want you to think that this was something that wasn't really delved into in depth with significant legal input from various different places in the state and looking at other towns as well. So I just want to be very clear. It wasn't something, none of these things that have been brought up aren't things that have already been considered. I just think what we've heard is it seems like with the, which is probably why many of us are so much more comfortable with it than the public, because we've been living with it. And again, all of us live in older homes. So, and realize how this would truly impact or not. So, but I do appreciate how other people and like yourselves and some we've heard tonight may feel like a little uneasy because of the uncertainty of how it would apply, and that we should see what we can do to make people feel more as comfortable with it as most of us are.
Mayor, with all due respect, I'm on the Code Review Committee. We did not look at this over a year. It was with the Historical Preservation Committee, and Councilwoman Mackey, I know, was against at one point putting a year in the ordinance, which I was also not in favor of putting an ordinance in, but that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you, Riley.
I don't see anybody else that has not spoken before at this point. Unless anyone else, last call for for anyone to speak.
I just want Shelley.
Yes.
There. I just want to.
I didn't see you, Dawn. Councilor Mackey. Yes, please.
I just want to correct that. It wasn't the year that I had a problem with. It was that I had to get comfortable with the fact that the municipality had the inherent power to designate a home without consent. And it took a lot of delving with the town attorney and other legal experts to understand that in order to be compliant with the state, we didn't have a choice, and that municipalities don't generally avail themselves of that. And that certainly we have no intention of availing ourselves of that, but it was a matter of being compliant. And I absolutely wanted to be compliant with state law. And yes, I did have a discomfort, but it was not about the designating a particular year. I just want to correct that.
Okay, thank you, Dawn.
Okay, we do have another somebody. Bob, are you there?
Bob's on mute.
Yeah, Bob, are you there? You unmute yourself. Trying to do that for you. Bob, can you unmute? No. Okay, we're not having success with Bob here.
He unraised his hand, Jim.
No, it's on mute. I'm asking him to unmute.
No, I know, but his hand's not raised, so maybe.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, I think he's on mute. Anyone else that has already spoken is raising their hand at this point. So I think you can close the public hearing, Mayor, or public comment.
Let's see. I close this portion of the meeting and move to bills and claims. So Councilman Hapgood.
Sorry, I was reflecting. Thank you, Mayor. I have 7 resolutions that I'd like to move as a package.
Bills and claims first, Linda?
No, yeah, I have it printed wrong, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll start with this. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $753,452.43.
May I have a second?
Second, Dardia.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. So next on the agenda is reports to standing committees, beginning with the Finance Policy Committee. So Councilwoman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 7 resolutions that I'd like to move as a package. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant to the Treasurer, State of New Jersey for marriage civil union license fees A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for unused parking permit fee. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a check for the balance of the escrow monies. A resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department pool fees. A resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department playground fees. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for dog licenses for June 2020. And a resolution to award contract for planning and design services for the development of a Fields master plan for Edison Intermediate School property.
May I have a second?
Second, Mackey.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I just want to say, make one comment. I just want to thank committee that reviewed the RFPs that came in, Councilman Katz, Brad Rothenberg from the Recreation Commission, Gary Fox from the Board of Education, Peggy Oster, as well as Mike Beelan, Dana Sullivan, myself and Chris McAloon were part of that committee. And this is a really great step in the right direction, carrying on the next step of the master plan for parks. So I just want to thank the Board of Education for their cooperation, and we'll see where this brings us, but this is an exciting step. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Next is
I just want to ask, can I ask a question real quick?
can we save it for the end? We
Sure.
get through this. Next is the Public Safety Transportation Parking Committee, Councilman Dardia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move General Ordinance number 2184 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the town of Westfield, Chapter 13. And this is for mid-block crosswalks on Park Drive in Minnewaska Park.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrepo. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would also like to move General Ordinance number 2185 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the town of Westfield, Chapter 13. This is with regard to the 4th Avenue parking restrictions.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Parmalee. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Next is the Code Review and Town Property Committee, Councilman Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve peddlers licenses.
May I have a second?
Second, Katz.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
I also have two ordinances scheduled for introduction tonight. The first is General Ordinance number 2186, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield as it relates to pods. I would like to move General Ordinance number 2186 on first reading.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrepo. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would also like to move General Ordinance number 2187 on first reading, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield by defining pet care facilities and establishing them as permitted principal use in certain zone districts.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrepo. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Last is the Public Works Committee, Councilman Contract.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three resolutions to move as a package. The first is a resolution for the final acceptance for the 2018 various road improvements. The second is a resolution for the final acceptance for the 2019 improvement of Lot 7 on North Avenue. And the third is a resolution authorizing the issuance. Oh, we're not doing the third one.
That's right. The third one will be held. Just the first two.
Right. Yeah, so just two.
May I have a second?
Second, Boyd.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Yes.
This motion is carried. So any comments before we adjourn?
Mayor, I just wanted to ask Jim or Councilman Katz, excited about the study for the Fields project. Just since it would be on Board of Ed Field, has anything been worked out yet as far as who would have priority over the field, or that's all still being negotiated?
I think it's very early. We have had discussions about, what will happen if something is possible there, which would require an agreement with the Board of Education to either, lease or buy the property from them to do something on there. But we're not that.
Okay, I just
And I just want to mention, I forgot to mention Recreation Commissioner Russ Howell, who was also involved in the selection process. So thank you, Russ.
Okay.
Jim, Councilman Contract, just a quick question. I was thinking the solar ordinance second reading would be tonight.
That's actually, Tara, I'm trying to think, that's the
We
Which
may have
one, the
just,
solar panel?
yeah, the solar panels.
That had to
Isn't-
go to planning board.
planning board?
Oh, it's planning board. Got it. Okay. When are they reviewing it? And then
It's scheduled to come back to us on August 11th.
August 11th. Got it. Okay. Thanks for clarifying. I had my date.
So, all right. So, thank you, everybody. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Grippo, second.
Second.
Dardia.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Bye.